From ant wars to turf battles over territory and food, insects are no strangers to getting into brawls. But they've got nothing on some of our six-legged friends who will happily beat up anyone in their way. Like many famous brawls throughout history, insect brawls can happen between members of the same species or between members of different species. But before we get into the outcomes, let's talk about why insects fight. They attack anything that enters their path. Even other ants aren't safe from their wrath, and they kill anything that gets in their way. So you might think that living among these aggressive little monsters would be pretty dangerous for a spider. And it would be, except for the fact that spiders and armions form an alliance. Like in the case of stick insects are masters of disguise. Jewel beetles are beautifully colored insects with flat, smooth bodies, and because of these characteristics, they're very easy to pick up and carry away. We lose the opportunity to understand what drives these epic struggles and what causes them to end the way they do. Understanding what motivates insects can help us predict what they might do next, and understanding why some fights end in stalemate might show us how to bring warring groups of animals together. At a time when people around the world are struggling to share limited resources, these lessons can save lives. They're so easy to move, in fact, that some insects have evolved to literally use them as flying taxis. And thanks especially to our supporters who help us make great videos for everyone. If you'd like to support us and get fun perks like submitting questions to our inbox, go to our support page. Jewel beetles hitch rides on large predatory wasps, riding them to a fig tree where they lay their eggs. After the wasp leaves, the beetle drops to the ground below the fig and waits for its fig wasp colony mates to emerge. Then it crawls inside a fig and lays its own eggs. But these brawls aren't one-sided. Some insects have evolved to fight back against their insect taxis. Take the Asian longhorned beetle. As their common name suggests, these beetles have long antennae and are known for attacking and killing maple, birch, willow, and other trees. They're originally from Asia and have recently invaded parts of North America, Europe, and Africa. Female longhorned beetles snuck into the United States twice in the 1900s by stowing away on wooden packing material. And once they arrived, they got to work laying eggs and eating up lots of trees. Longhorn beetles inject a toxic chemical into the plants they eat, which helps break down the plant's tissues and allows the beetles to digest them. That chemical also paralyzes the fig wasps that the beetles ride into their fig hideouts. The wasps can't sting the beetles to death, but they can slash their abdomens open. And that's exactly what they do, cutting open the beetles and saving themselves from being eaten. Their bodies are shaped like twigs, leaves, or grass, and depending on the species, they can be many colors and patterns, giving them amazing camouflage. But sometimes their stick-shaped bodies get them mistaken for other stick-shaped bodies. And when that happens, they end up in a fight. Say a twig falls on a leaf and a stick insect munching on that leaf gets attacked by a praying mantis that thinks it has a twig. If the stick insect manages to escape, it not only gets to live another day, but it also gets a free meal. That's a win-win. Spiders build their webs on top of the ants' heads, using the ants' aggression to protect them from predators. But young male spiders need to get out of their colony in order to find a new one to take over. And when they leave, they have to do so through the dangerous outer edges of the armiont colony. So young male spiders basically have to fight their way out. If they make it, they get to disperse and establish their own colonies. If they don't, well, they become someone else's lunch. It might seem obvious to say that insects fight over limited resources like food or territory, but that's not the whole story. In most cases, when two insects are fighting over a resource, neither one walks away with the prize. Instead, both walk away empty-pawed, having lost interest in the item that started the fight. But that's not always what happens. Sometimes the winner takes all, like in the case of the robber fly and its beetle prey. Robber flies are large, hairy insects that wait patiently on a leaf or flower, then snatch up unsuspecting beetles flying past them. Once they've grabbed their meal, robber flies either eat their prey right away or carry it back to their nest. For example, in some cases, aggressive encounters turn into fights simply because the insects are the wrong size. When that happens, it means that neither insect gets what it wants, but both walk away alive. That is, unless their fight is interrupted by a third party. Take honeybees, for example. Honeybees aggressively defend their hives and will sting anyone who invades. But they're not the only ones with stingers. Wasps also live in hives and also have stingers. And while they're related to bees, wasps don't pollinate plants. Instead, they tend to act as garbage collectors, cleaning up dead insects and other organic matter. So these two stinging insects can end up fighting over the same food. But the arrival of a third party can interrupt their fights. That third party is us humans. We're more than happy to destroy both wasp and bee nests and eat their food. That is, if one insect is too big for its colony mates, it may bully the smaller individuals. And if those individuals don't stand up for themselves, they could be killed. So sometimes insects fight just to maintain social order. Or sometimes they fight for the fun of it, kind of like when your cat brings home a dead mouse and bats around before eating it. Insects are showing off and practicing their fighting skills. This practice makes perfect since insects are frequently involved in aggressive encounters whether or not they start them, so being ready to rumble is an important part of growing up. And in some cases, it's critical for survival. In either case, it's hard to tell where one brawl ends and another begins since fighting individuals are often piled on top of each other in a tangled mass. But the classic insect brawl involves two species competing for resources. Like this classic 1960s cartoon depicts two ants fighting over a piece of food. These insects don't just fight each other. They also settle scores with birds, humans, and even frogs. And they're not afraid to pick a fight with anybody. And what do these fights have to do with you? Find out all about insect brawls, how they start, why they happen, and why you should care. Hi, I'm here with Mini Turf. Today we're talking about insect brawls. These turf wars can play out over weeks, months, or even years. And like any good story, there are multiple ways that they can end. For example, in Central America, there's a species of all-breathing spider called Verrucosa arenata that lives among army ants. Army ants are extremely aggressive. Now, back to the brawls. But sometimes the insect brawl doesn't come down to one clear winner, instead ending in a tie. In some cases, though, insects manage to fight their way to an even better outcome than walking away with food, a tie, or an uninjured opponent. Of course, escaping a fight isn't the only way an insect can win a brawl. Sometimes they can overpower their opponents. Take jewel beetles, for example. So when insects fight, everyone loses, including the humans. We lose food, money, and even our lives. But we also lose something else. And if you want to hear more stories about weird ways that insects interact with each other and with us, stay tuned. Thanks for watching this episode of C Show.